Hello. Welcome to the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association's virtual meeting, December 16th, 2020. We appreciate everyone joining us, especially on this wonderful day, this winter wonderland. So we ask everybody if they would like to just sit back in the warmth of their house and enjoy the program we put together. We always look forward to comments on how we can improve things, and both within our broadcast and within the neighborhood. So I'd like to go through a few updates before we begin the program. First of all, I'd like to tell, if possible, if you're viewing this, under comments, either on Facebook or on YouTube, if you could put your name and email down, that would be great. Also, you're going to use those functions to ask questions of our presenters. And when you ask a question, again, if you can put your name and email address down, if we don't get to the question, we will respond if we have to do some research or something before we run out of time. We do have a very full schedule. So if you can get that information down, we would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so I'd like to go over a few things that we're working on right now. Old Astoria. First of all, we're just beginning this. We're making the initial inquiries, but we want to start with trying to establish ADA compliant access to the RFK Triborough Bridge pedestrian and bike walk. Right now it's stairs, and we just don't think that, given the emphasis that's being put on accessibility nowadays, that really that should stay as is. It's anachronistic, and we look forward to it changing. So if we can, if anybody can make any comments, or if they can add anything to that as we start to discuss this, primarily with the MTA and the state. It may take years to do this, particularly with all the budget issues that we're having, but it's really something that I think needs to be taken care of. It's important for our neighborhood. Okay, also, there is an issue going on right now in underneath the Queensboro Bridge. There's a compost heap site there that's being run by the Big Reuse, which the city's trying to take back, and they're trying to make it into a parking lot. We have some information on our website regarding this. This was our last post on, how you can make your voice heard. We think that it's important. Sustainability is one of the biggest issues that we're having nowadays, and supplementing a compost heap for a parking lot goes against everything we're trying to do. So we hope everybody can take the time to make a comment. We'd appreciate that. I'm going to put the link I'm going to try and put the link in. I seem to be having a problem with the link, but I'm going to try and fix that at some point today, and I'll let you know. Okay. Also, we have co-sponsoring the Mulch Fest, which is the Mulch Fest that happens every year for Christmas trees in Astoria Park. The Parks Department has dropped off mulch at Geppetto Square, which is at 23rd Street and Hoyt Avenue North. And they're providing bags, gloves, and shovels to fill bags with mulch and carry them over to the trees on Hoyt Avenue North on the pedestrian side from 24th Street to 29th Street, which is where we would like to do a little cleanup around the trees and then mulch them. If you can spare time on January 9th, Saturday at 10 a.m. To noon, even if it's only 20 minutes, we would appreciate it. The trees along the avenue don't get much care, so we'd like to try our best to look after them. And we need to let the parks know that we have at least 10 volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering for this, if you could please contact OANA. You can email us at info@oana-ny.org and give us your name and information, and we'll forward them on to Anna DiBartolo, who's the backbone of this event. We're trying to help her out with outreach. Other people involved, there's Doris Filios, Yasmina Keller, and James Bond, the original. Anyways, we hope that you can join us. That would be great. Okay. Next, I'd like to bring on our first presenter. This is from the Office of the Mayor of the City of New York. This is concerning small business and the issues that they're going through right now. As we know that these times are tumultuous and they could be actually fatal to a lot of small business. So the City of New York has a program that they've revamped that hopefully will help alleviate some of the financial issues that people are having. I'd like to invite Jessica on. Jessica?
Thanks, Richard. Hi, folks. I'd like to just highlight the most recent endeavor out of City Hall to support small businesses in New York City. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, so this is the LMI storefront loan. And what this is it's an interest-free loan up to $100,000 to help storefront businesses located in low to moderate income areas of New York City restart or continue operations after experiencing challenges from COVID-19. So again, I just want to highlight that's a 0% interest loan of up to $100,000. And the way that this works is there are two different windows of applying, and you can figure that out by clicking here at eligible zip codes. And we'll find that when we search for Astoria, there are three that come up: 11106, 11102, and 11103. Now, those zip codes can apply starting September 14th, so that application is now active. And we are encouraging folks to get ahead of this application, submit it as soon as possible. The criteria include that businesses should have two, but fewer than 100 employees, that they're located within these specific zip codes, and that they have been in operation since January 1st, 2018. So again, for more information to find that page that I showed, please go to nyc.gov/storefront loan. Thank you. Richard, you're muted.
Oops, sorry. I wonder if we have a few more minutes here. So if you have anything else you would like to bring up that's coming out of the mayor's office that might be interesting for our viewers, we have about 5 minutes. So
okay, I'm just going to highlight really focusing on the storm that we have starting in New York City today. Well, schools will be closed in person tomorrow, but all schools will be operating remotely. We also had to close all of our H&H testing sites for COVID-19 starting today at 2 p.m., but they will be reopening tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon. We are seeing cases of COVID-19 go up across the whole city. And so as part of that, we continue to encourage folks to get tested. The city's capacity to test for COVID-19 is now at about 120,000 tests per day. And we especially encourage folks to check out H&H sites, as those have had the shortest lines that we've seen citywide. So as part of that increase in cases, we've been encouraging New Yorkers not to travel this holiday season. The Department of Health Commissioner put out in health advisory that folks who are over 65, have pre-existing health conditions, should focus on not engaging in activities that are non-essential, and that they should limit engaging in activities and gatherings with other folks who are outside of their household. Second to that, we've also had the vaccine rollout this week, which has been really exciting. It definitely feels like there's been a shift in tone from to being a little more hopeful. And so starting this week, the mayor has been out in different hospitals watching these vaccines be administered. This morning, he was at Elmhurst Hospital, which was the first H&H vaccination taking place. So that was really exciting, having gone from the epicenter of the epicenter to now administering this vaccine. We've really come very far this year, and certainly feeling a lot more optimistic for 2021.
Good. I'd actually like to add to that a personal experience, a situation where a system that worked quite well. And it was something that I recently went through. I did come down with COVID virus, and I was hospitalized for a few days. But what I found out about was the program that the city runs to isolate people who have to isolate for a couple weeks, especially if they live in a household where they can't isolate. And that's in the hotels. And I actually spent, I think, 11 days, 12 days, something like that, in the LaGuardia Plaza Hotel, which is a COVID isolation site. The city provided this. I think it was very well run. I want to compliment everybody. They had nurses on every floor. They fed us. It was really great. And, I think that people don't know enough about this. And this is something I think that, should be brought up. We need to advertise the wins as much as possible, in today's environment. So if you could relay that on, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, we've been speaking about the hotel program as part of our Take Care part of the Test and Trace Core for some time since it's been launched. It's just been, I think, one of those programs that hasn't really resonated for folks because once we dealt with the first wave and things started to open up during the summer, it was just something that was in one ear out the other. But now that we're seeing cases go up, we've seen a lot more people using that program. And if somebody knows somebody who has COVID, or if they themselves do and they'd like to be referred to the hotel program, they can call 212-COVID-19. That's 212-268-4319. And as you said, everything is really taken care of to make sure that folks can comfortably isolate.
Good. We have a question that just came through. I'm not sure if this is something you can answer, but yeah, probably. There is a vacant home on our block. This is from Gus Contudis. There's a vacant home on our block, and there are homeless individuals sleeping on the front porch. What could be done to remove them? I am afraid, especially with my small children.
Gus, thanks for sharing that. What's best in this route is to call 311 and make sure to submit the address that is taking place at. And that complaint will be relayed to the Department of Homeless Services, who will then send outreach workers to engage with the family, especially given the cold weather. There is a code blue in place, and so outreach workers will be out to really engage homeless clients so that they can be brought inside and have shelter during this cold weather.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. If there's any other questions that somebody has for Jessica, if you put your email address down with your name, then we can get back to you with all the information you need. Thank you so much, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. I want to bring up from Neil Harden, who is the president of the Friends of Whitey Ford Field. He just wanted us to comment and let everybody know that the construction and renovations of Whitey Ford's Field are underway. Okay. And also, I'd let you know that OANA and the Friends of Whitey Ford Field sponsored a renaming of, I think it's 43rd Street at 34th Avenue as Whitey Ford Way. I think that's the name. I might be a little bit wrong, but that should be done hopefully this summer. That's another thing we're working on to show our appreciation for Astoria's favorite son. Let's see. I have a message here. Oh. Lorraine Russo, it's heart-wrenching to see beautiful old-style houses and homes still in good condition being torn down and replaced with multiplex apartment buildings. Can anything be done? If there is a particular site that you would like to have information about, just let us know. We'll look into it. Sometimes while they are beautiful buildings, sometimes just their inefficiency for utilities and heat and stuff like that make them often too difficult to maintain. And there are some modern things that are done in homes nowadays, which can be better, but sometimes also they're replaced with substandard housing. So there was a time about 20 years ago when we did try and landmark 12th Street, but at that time it did not go through because the homeowners at that time refused to let it go through. They did not want it because one of the problems when you landmark a building is that you have big issues with doing any changes. You have to go through the bureaucracy, you get approval to change everything. So let us know if you have anything specific, and we'll look into it and try and get back to you. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. Next, I'd like to bring out, we have another message from Tom. Same note about development. Is there any news about the QNS Innovation Project? There's been some protests. Nothing specific yet. We will let you know. We're hoping to bring in the developers for them to make a presentation so that people can see exactly what they are looking to do. We'll let you know. Just keep in touch. Okay, I'd like to bring in now, we always bring in a first responder. We've had most of the police department, fire department, even the postal inspectors, FBI, but we have not had the Port Authority police, and especially when we have a favorite son who can present on them. So we'd like to bring in George Sinopidis, Lieutenant George Sinopidis of the Port Authority police, to give everybody a little bit of an idea of exactly what they do and how they affect everybody's lives. George?
Good afternoon, Rich. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. Like Rich said, I'm an old Astoria native myself and a homeowner. It's a pleasure to be on your program, and I'm open to answer any questions you guys may have. I'm going to give you a little background. A lot of people know the Port Authority Police, but they really don't know much about us. We're kind of a mystery. What it is that we do, where we function, what our authority is, how we came to existence, how old we are, etc. So I'll do my best to give you a quick little taste in the short little time that I have. Me personally, I've been in public service for 23 years. I started my career with the FDNY, went on to the NYPD, and in 2002, I became part of the Port Authority Police Department, and I currently hold the rank of lieutenant. I'm currently stationed nearby at LaGuardia Airport, and I'll give you some insights about the projects that we have over here as well, and some community outreach programs that we have, including COVID testing that can be useful to all of the residents of our Old Astoria neighborhood. So in regards to the Port Authority Police, this is a very unique police department. It's in existence for nearly a century now. It was put in place in June of 1928 and was put in place by Congress. Apparently the two states, the Port District, they couldn't agree with a lot of things, let's just say, and they needed someone to police their ports initially. The PAPD is a very unique police department because of the scope of work that they do. It's a bi-state police department, meaning that the police officers under Paragraph E subdivision of the state criminal procedure law are given full police powers in both states. So New York and New Jersey, at any part of either state, the Port Authority Police has full police jurisdiction. We're there to enforce the laws of the state, local laws, city laws, etc. What makes this police department so unique, other than its bi-state jurisdiction, is that of the kind of work that it does. It's first of all, it's the largest transit-related police force in the United States. It currently has approximately 2,300 uniformed police members, which makes it one of the largest police departments in the country as well. Excuse me, as well. We have 13 precincts, and they're split between New York and New Jersey. We concentrate mainly in the transportation facilities that we operate, such as the airports, both New York and New Jersey, Newark, Teterboro. We have LaGuardia Airport, John F. Kennedy Airport. But that's not just it. We operate the PATH train, the Jones Square bus terminal, the George Washington Bridge bus station there as well. These are just some to mention: the World Trade Center, etc., etc. What makes this police department additionally unique is the type of service that they offer in this bi-state environment. We have one of the largest canine units of any police department that I'm aware of. Mainly anti-terrorism, explosive in nature, like explosive detection, I should say. We have a large emergency services unit, which is probably one of the most trained and equipped units that is in existence in any police department. And I'm very proud of that because I was part of that unit for 9 years. We do anything from dignitary protection to emotional disturbed individual rescues, what we call as jumpers. We have a very large criminal investigations bureau, which is pretty much a detective bureau. We work and we're part of several different task forces, including the FBI. Work together with the Secret Service. We work together with the NYPD and any other agency that you can imagine, DEA, etc. I apologize. I'm running through this as quick as I can because there's a lot of history behind this.
So it's okay. Don't, George. It's good. Don't worry. Okay, we have time.
So, all right. So another very unique thing about this police department is that we're not just police officers. We're full-fledged firemen as well. That is probably the only police department that I can think of. There might be one more in existence. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not gonna say if they're still in existence, but we are full-fledged firemen in regards to aircraft rescue emergencies. So we're a specialized fire department. We have a separate fire department under the aviation unit that is manned by police officers. We pretty much have those big, tremendous yellow trucks that you see on the runway, sometimes doing drills and testing, and anything that would have to do with an aircraft emergency, God forbid, a plane crash, which I personally have been part of 3. We respond, we rescue, we put out fires, and whatever else is needed, including a lot of us are medical professionals as well. We have several paramedics. Many of us are EMTs, like myself, and the majority of us are CFRDs. That's all under the aviation unit of the Port Authority Police. I'm currently the tour commander and at the LaGuardia Airport, one of the few that we have here. We have an $8 billion construction project going on over here. We're not exactly done with it, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at that, the COVID pandemic has alleviated some of our traffic. We had a big issue with our traffic. We had approximately 300 police officers just at this precinct over here, which I was part of. I was tasked with being the special projects lieutenant in regards to making sure that this construction and traffic situation over here went smooth. Unfortunately, after the pandemic, light traffic conditions emerged, and we were able to do a lot of construction in this unfortunate situation. Currently, the projects going on here at LaGuardia Airport are running on time. Some may even come before the end, before the due date. One additional thing that I want to just offer to our viewers here is that LaGuardia Airport is currently offering a COVID-19 testing site, including the rapid test as well. In conjunction, since December 10th, in conjunction with New York City Health and Hospitals, and Test and Trace Corps in partnership with LaGuardia Airport. We have expanded the testing abilities to the Terminal B garage. That's the new Terminal B, which is beautiful. If you haven't traveled through here and you would like to see it, it's something that I would suggest you all do. It's beautiful. It's nothing like the old LaGuardia, very efficient, and we're modern and very proud to be compared to anyone, pretty much. So this COVID test site, and I'm going to put up the link on the comments for anyone that's interested. It's pretty much a walk-up location. It's free of charge. If you do have insurance, they will ask you for insurance information. If you do not have insurance, it's free of charge once again. It's open 7 days a week. It's open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And free parking for anyone that goes to get tested. And it's probably one of the fastest locations you can get tested in Queens right now, because not too many people, I guess, know about it. The approximate time is no longer than half an hour in and out. You usually get if you do the conventional test, which is the PCR test, it's approximately a 48-hour result timeline. And if you do the rapid testing, it's approximately half an hour. You pretty much wait while they give you your results. That's pretty much all I have. I'm gonna put in the short period of time, I hope I gave you guys a little bit of an insight about what it is that we do. We have I'm gonna see if I can go in the comments and post this link for more information, anyone that's interested. Unfortunately, it looks like I don't have a place to put the information, so I'm gonna leave it with a private chat over here, Rich, and you can post it for everyone to see. Is that okay? Victor, I see.
I might be muted. Yeah, it's perfect. I think I have the same issue. So.
Okay, excellent. So that link will bring you and give you additional information about this COVID site that we're operating here at my precinct. If anyone has any questions about the Port Authority Police, or any questions about me, or anything that I can answer, I'll be more than happy to.
Good. Well, let's see. We did get, of course, from Bruce Lazarus, a big thank you for your presentation.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. And let me see if there's any other questions here. Do you have, I know you weren't there because you started in 2002, but do you have any comments or anything on, obviously, probably the blackest day in the history of the Port Authority, which was 9/11?
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I was there. I was wearing a different uniform at the time. I was with the NYPD at the time. I actually lost one of my partners there, and I was injured down there myself. So yes, the Port Authority Police had the highest loss, suffered the worst loss of life ever in a single event in the history of policing in the United States, losing 37 officers in one incident. I was there at the time. I was assigned at Transit District 4 as an NYPD police officer at the time, and I spent approximately 34 straight, pretty much, days down there. Yes.
Good. That's quite an experience. It still colors everything we do. So that is
we appreciate all the support, even though it's scarce in our days. Contrary to popular belief, the police is here to help. Okay, we all took this job and we all wear this uniform. We definitely don't do it because of the money. We definitely don't do it because of any other reasons that people, come up with. We have no holidays. We miss most of our kids' events. We pretty much do it because we want to give back to the community.
Well, we thank you for that, and you and all the different agencies and that we've joined us here over the years. We greatly appreciate it. Do you have any last thoughts towards Astoria? I know that you live in Old Astoria. How long have you been here? What do you think of the neighborhood? It's gone through a lot of changes.
Yes, it has. Pretty much I was born and raised in Astoria. I was born at Elmhurst Hospital, as a matter of fact, and even though the demographics have changed, it's still wonderful. It's always been a very diverse place to live, and with the pandemic, unfortunately, a lot of businesses that are suffering have moved on or they closed their doors. And the only thing that I want to say to that is see if we can motivate people. I know that I do it to pretty much support your local businesses, even if it's purchasing a small gift for a family friend during this holiday season. Buy from a local shop if you can. Amazon is going to be there to stay. You don't get me wrong. I thought that, and me personally, I thought that anyone that wants to bring jobs around here, I'm all for. It didn't happen for whatever political reasons, which I'm not part of. But we definitely need to support our local businesses.
Great. Well, thank you so much, George. It's great to see you again, and we appreciate you coming on. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we had one last little question here.
Yeah.
But I think you already answered it from Phyllis Sharp. Will the rapid COVID testings, are there long lines?
I have not seen a long line. I want to give an approximate timeline of half an hour to 40 minutes in and out.
Mm-hmm. Good. Perfect. Okay, George, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take care.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Victor, who do we have backstage right now?
Hey, Rich. We have Virginia, Robert, Jessica, and Melinda.
Melinda's backstage? Perfect. Okay. Great. Well, thank you guys so much. We'd like to, we're actually privileged for the first time to have Melinda Katz, our district attorney, join us. I've known Melinda for close to 20 years. At one point, I'm a longtime community board member, and she was in charge of the community boards when I first started. And she's probably held almost every position of significance within Queens County. And we really appreciate the fact that she's joining us now as our district attorney. So Melinda, please join us. How are you?
I'm well, Richard. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I wish I could see everybody else, but somehow they don't all pop up, huh?
The which?
We can't see everybody else that's here. Is that the way?
This is a webinar, so the other people are seeing streaming versus on Facebook and YouTube. And if they have questions, they just put them in the chat. That's how.
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed because I have to tell you, knowing Old Astoria Neighborhood Association, I was looking forward to seeing everybody's living room and their kitchen and their, whatever they had in the background. But
well, I have to have a significant. I have one it'll be a stand-in. How's that?
There you go. Well, it's good to see everybody. I wish I could see you under normal circumstances. It has been quite the year. Richard, I want to thank you for your leadership. We all haven't been to that many personal events over the last year or so, or 10 months, I guess. But I've seen you, and I thank you for that. It's good to know that there is some consistency in today's wild world. And you bring that to the area, and I thank you for that. And Old Astoria does too. I mean, this organization's been around how many years now?
About 6 years now.
About 6 years. And it's nice, with people looking at the community and making sure that the needs are being met. And I am excited to be here tonight. for a few minutes. So let me just tell you how the first year has gone. Many of you know me as the borough president, the elected official in the area. I have been the district attorney for 11 months. I got to tell you, it's been it's been amazing. Since I have been the DA, we have changed the bail laws twice in the state of New York. We have changed the discovery laws twice in the state of New York. I got rid of a very onerous and I thought biased policy which forced someone to waive their grand jury rights in order to get anything but a top count plea from the DA's office. I changed that all on January 1st. And so in addition to the bail laws changing, discovery laws changing, you know, we've had a worldwide pandemic where we have changed to virtual 100%, back to live, and now we are going back to virtual in a 700-person office who contain all essential employees. You know, we can't just go home. We have people getting arrested every day. We have arraignments every day. We have orders of protection that need to be issued every single day. Decisions need to be made on how to deal with folks that are coming in and folks that are in the system. And so that is, you know, by virtue of the pandemic that's going on. And we have a national conversation, which I do think is long overdue, about policing in the United States of America. And so that was all my first year. And so, you know, we are in a position right now where there's, you know, Richard, I got to tell you, there's so much unrest in the world. You know, people are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to COVID. But, you know, all of us have been through a lot. And, you know, you can't discount that. You know, in my office, we see overdoses that are rising. We see mental health illness that is multiplying. We see shootings that have risen. You know, in 1/14 alone, it's risen 250% from this time last year. People are really just trying to keep themselves steady. And it's like the lost year almost. You know, and at the same time, we're trying to hold our jobs and do what we need to do to survive. We're trying to teach our children school. Most of us have either blended learning for our children or our grandchildren. And some of us have, you know, totally at home learning, remote learning. I know from my perspective, you know, having an office of 700 people and remote learning, I'll tell you, the remote learning is harder than the 700 folks that are in my office. And, you know, so it is a hard time for everyone. And we've seen that in our stats, just so you know. We've seen the suicides rising. We've seen mental health illness exponentially increasing because people are quarantined in their home and they have, you know, no way of getting help. And if you are getting help for any emotional issues or psychological issues, a lot of times if you're lucky enough to be able to see a psychologist or a social worker or help, you're doing it by Zoom. There's not that one-on-one contact that so many people rely desperately upon. We're seeing drug overdoses increase. You know, it's a time when whatever you've had and whatever condition you've had is multiplied at this time of COVID. And, you know, I love the fact that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a little while. We've seen an uptick in COVID. We have a snowstorm that's happening right now. I'm glad we're all home and safe and sound. We've seen DWIs across the board in Queens County. I have toughened up some of the laws on DWIs, just so you know. Do not drive drunk in the borough of Queens County. It is something that we take extremely seriously. And so, you know, all of this is happening over the last 11 months in my office. So there's a few things that I am very thankful for this December. Number one, I am thankful to see 2020 go. Goodbye. Sei gesund, as they say in Yiddish. Be well and be healthy and live long, but be goodbye. We have to look forward to a little bit more of hope in 2021. I am thankful for the fact that in a world that, you know, is trying to keep up, I had the experience in running offices before. You know, when COVID started happening in February, I saw the grand jurors stop showing up. We saw it one by one. Every day there'd be one less, and there'd be The question as to what would happen tomorrow. And I immediately said to my office and got my staff together and said, we need to start preparing for the fact that we're not going to be able to come into this office. And, you know, a lot of offices are still running. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be. And I said, we got to start preparing. And we got hundreds of computers for our district attorneys to take home so that they could actually work from home and be able to do the business of the county and keeping this county safe from home. So I'm thankful that we had that foresight. I'm also thankful that, you know, we have a staff. I immediately changed a lot of the executive staff, as many of you know. I have a chief executive named Jen Nyberg. She is a 28-year prosecutor in the office. She has the experience, she has the history, and she has that historical knowledge of the office that I didn't have. I was never a career prosecutor. And I think that's why it gave me the ability to look outside the box at all of the issues that came up, especially in the last 11 months. You know, we hire our elected officials. I hire my elected officials too. I vote as well. We hire our elected officials to take us through really bad times and to be able to deal with crises should they arise, as well as, you know, fund our parks and fund our baseball teams and stuff like that. But we need to have some faith in our elected officials when crises happen. And I was thankful that I was there during all of this, that I had the history and the knowledge of past offices, that I was able to organize 700 people and to be able to make sure that we kept running. At the same time, though, we moved forward. I mean, we have done enormous work moving forward in this office. We have formed a conviction integrity unit. We are now looking at about 60 or 70. I don't know today's count of people who have applied, who want their convictions looked at. We've so far done 4. We've done 2 individuals who simply didn't do it. They spent 25 years in jail, and they simply didn't commit the crime. And the last one we did was a man named Kendrick, Mr. Kendrick, who was arrested 25 years ago for a stabbing of a woman and for murder. And he applied to the office, and we looked at all the evidence. I walked the grounds at Ravenswood. I walked it. I went out there because we had new witnesses that said the key witness simply wasn't there. He couldn't have seen what he saw because we were standing there also. There was a pocketbook that tied the victim to the defendant. We had a 10-year-old witness who was 100 feet away who identified the defendant. And he identified a pocketbook that was the key tie and key, you know, relationship between that defendant and the victim, because the pocketbook was stolen from the victim. And, you know, we're sitting around the table in my conference room for like the 5th time talking about this case. And I finally said, can we do a DNA analysis on the pocketbook? Because there's not one woman alive that has a pocketbook that doesn't put a tissue or makeup or money that she's handled or anything in her pocketbook. And I would like to know, before we make this decision, whether or not there was any of her DNA in that pocketbook. And there was none at all. Nothing that tied the defendant to the victim to the bag that really tied the defendant to the victim. So, you know, the man walked into jail, a prisoner, and walked out a free man. At the same time as doing that, we have developed the Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau, and we have formed it from the ground up. I like to call it the Guns, Gangs, and Drugs Bureau. I have been outnumbered and outvoted in the office on that name. So we call it the Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau. The number one goal of that bureau is to get the guns off the street. That's the goal. Shootings have gone up by 250% in the 114th precinct. We need to get the guns off the street. It is the reason we did a gun buyback on December 5th with Bishop Taylor in the community, because we need to get the guns off the street. But we also need to prosecute those that are carrying weapons in the street, loaded weapons, and are shooters. You know, we had the one individual out there on the 114th who was shot. He wasn't the intended target. He was a veteran. He was shot. He died. He was not the intended target, but that's what happens when, you know, we have this uptick in shootings. We, at the same time as we're doing things like the CIU, the Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau is busy working to make sure that we're prosecuting those cases. In fact, we busted up a ring and got 23 guns off the street. They were buying guns down in Virginia, legally, by the way, in Virginia. And they were bringing the guns up through the iron pipeline, which we call, coming up north to Queens. And they were selling guns to our children. That's what they were doing. And with the work of a phenomenal and unbelievably persistent undercover officer who we worked with on a daily basis, we managed to get 23 guns bought by him. He was the highest bidder. Somehow they didn't catch on. I mean, that's just what it was. He was the highest bidder. And those 23 guns that he was able to buy and that we were working with him in the investigation are 23 guns that did not end up in the hands of shooters in our borough. And we busted them. It was a 4-person ring. And we are prosecuting them to the fullest extent of the law. Other bureaus that we've created while we're working towards making sure the office is running with the pandemic. We've created the Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau. We've created the CIU. We've created the Bureau of Housing and Worker Protection. The Bureau of Housing and Worker Protection's goal is to make sure that employees are not taken advantage of for any reason, but it's also to make sure that prevailing wage is paid on work sites. It's also to make sure that if there's an accident on a work site, that we have an ADA, a bureau chief who has experience in these cases, and an investigator who has experience in either engineering or construction that goes down to the work site to make sure that they see how that accident happened, to make sure that we don't have to take the word of the site inspector when it comes to injuries at the scene of the crime, at the scene of the accident, and to make sure that we're not relying on DOB or DOI to tell us that you need an ADA. So we have a bureau chief or an ADA and an investigator at every accident scene on a construction site that there is an injury. And that has been amazing. And at the same time, we've done major investigations into companies that were literally just stealing from their employees, literally stealing, like prevailing wage. We had one case where there were several employees who were not getting paid prevailing wage. And we investigated. We prosecuted the company, and we got the money back. It was $1.5 million. And I got, I stood on the steps of the courthouse and I handed these men who worked so hard their back wages up to $300,000, as low as like $20,000 to like $260,000, but handed them their checks. And this was a result of months and months of investigations by our office. And it is what can happen when just having a conviction is not the goal of the office. We had a family who called us and said, we've put $50,000, and this is something for your club, your old Astoria to know, which is that there are a lot of scams going on right now. We had a family who put a $50,000 deposit down on a house. The lawyer emailed them, gave them where to wire the money, and it turns out it really wasn't the lawyer. It was a scam artist who somehow got the lawyer's address, asked them to wire the money, and they did. Why wouldn't you? It's your lawyer's address that it was sent from. So for everyone who's listening today, please, if you have any legal issues, any money you're wiring folks, call them and verify it's them, and then do what the email asks. But you have to know it's them. They put $50,000. By the time we got to it, 10,000, I think it was 15,000 had come out of the bank. We got them their $35,000 back. There was still left in the defendant's account. We don't have a defendant. We have nothing to prosecute yet. We're still trying to find the guy. But at the end of the day, we got the money back. So we are not, just so everybody knows, we are also not deferring any prosecutions because of COVID. We are a district attorney's office that, if you were going to be prosecuted before COVID, we're doing it now. So we have not deferred any gun cases. We have not deferred shootings. And so, we are moving forward in a lot of these bureaus as well. We have a hate crimes bureau that I formed from the first month. It used to be a bureau with gang violence. I didn't understand the connection. There was no connection. It was just that they had one bureau chief of both. I divided it. We've been prosecuting hate crime, and we have more people calling in with complaints. And so, that office has been busy in investigations as well and being responsive to the community. Domestic violence. I would like to just do a little sort of announcement, a public service announcement. Domestic violence during COVID is vastly underreported. And that's because of the obvious reasons. When you are quarantined with your abuser, it is extremely hard to outcry. It is extremely hard to go to the Family Justice Center. It's very hard to email anybody because abusers normally check your email. So we have set up a hotline, 286-4410, 286-718, for those people that don't know that, 718-286-4410. That is a 24/7 hotline. At any time of day or night, you can call that number. You will get an answer. You can ask either for services. Safe Horizons is available 24/7 for services, or you can ask to speak for an ADA for prosecution and for reporting. But it's very important that you know that there is an outlet, and there's a place to call, and there's a place to be safe. And even though you may not want to report the abuse, you may want the services that come and that are involved with abuse. And I've probably spoken, Richard, I'm sorry, way too long. But we've done so many exciting things in the office. I'm going to end with this. At the same time, we are prosecuting for drivers of violence. We are also working with the community to make sure that the same guns are not used by the next generation. And I think that is a key thing that we are doing. I have a brand new bureau, a brand new division that goes into the community, that will come to your civic association meetings if you want them to. They go to the community boards, they go to the council precincts, they go to block associations. Their job is not only to tell you what's going on in the community as far as the DA's office goes, but their job is to come and report back to me on to what's happening in your community that I should know about. And it is an addition to the office, I think, that was long overdue. And it's a way for us to keep communication open. They're also there for people who need information. My father was arrested. My son is caught up in the system. I can't find out information about where they are right now. I think that's an important part of it. And so we are excited by the work that we have done with the police department on many of our investigations. I want to thank them for their service, especially during these, unknown and very serious times. But we also work with them in the community as well. So I'm happy to answer questions. I just wanted to come and make sure people know that I am still around. My email, Richard, if you want to put it in the chat, goes right to my phone. It also goes to my special assistant. So in case you need any information, we're happy to give it to you if we can. It is katz@queensda.org, katz@queensda.org. And you're welcome to email me at any time. I've only moved down the block. I thank all of you that put your faith in me for this office. I know that not everyone did. I am hoping that I make you proud. We are a working and functioning office that has expanded its reach way into the community, and many new bureaus that are handling very serious crimes right now and very serious investigations. I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Great presentation. You covered everything. I had a few questions myself.
Sure.
I think you covered a lot of them, but let me see what I can do here. First of all, from a personal standpoint, you've really held every position of significance in Queens, just about, from council to borough president. I think you were in Albany also at some point, right?
Assembly member, council member, yes.
Yeah.
You had told me 30 years ago that I would replace Claire Schulman and Judge Dick Brown. I never would have believed you.
Mm-hmm. Well, two things about that. First of all, it's obvious it happened because you studied music and you're a musician. So, and I want to say, and I want to thank you again, when the new Helen Marshall room was opened up at Queensborough Hall, back when you were Queensborough president, you honored me by asking me to perform with my friends at that event. we thank you quite a bit for it. It was a great event. And it's a great facility. And along those lines, what I wanted to ask, first of all, separate from the DA's office, is each of these positions that you've held, when you look back at them, what kind of quality of life issues did each one in particular help for you to reach a position you're doing now? In other words, if you look back on council, I was able to do this and this and this, and it was really great to do this, but I couldn't do this, and it drove me to do this to go to another position. When you look back, how do you view all that?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. I was just talking about it today.
Mm-hmm.
So, a few things. The fact that I was never a career prosecutor has been my greatest, feat here. It's been the greatest gift, I think, during these times that anyone could have. Because I was not a career prosecutor, I wasn't stuck in my ways at the office. And so between the national conversation about policing, between COVID, between restructuring and criminal justice reform, between the uptick in shootings, I wasn't set in any particular way. And I was able to speak my mind and get the office to change with each issue that we got as it arose. And so that's really being a good lawyer, which I like to think I am, was really the greatest asset that I brought to this office. I was a constitutional law professor. I can't tell you the number of issues that came up as we're prosecuting on constitutional law in the time of COVID, right? We have preliminary hearings. How do we get the defendants' rights while they are in prison and have to appear? How do we make sure they can talk to their lawyers? All these different issues that came up that really had nothing to do with being a career prosecutor. And so I was able to look outside the box, which I think in a very beneficial way. One of the most interesting things that have happened is that a lot of the laws that I wrote in the New York State Assembly, I am now in court on. So when I was in the Assembly, and I know we've had a lot of debate over the last year or two about statute of limitations, for instance, on sexual abuse of children, right? We got rid of the statute of limitations for some of the crimes on sexual abuse. I was the first one 28 years ago or 27 years ago to get rid of the 5-year statute of limitations for sexual abuse of a child. When I was in the Assembly, you had to report your abuser within 5 years. If you were 6 years old, you had to report your abuser by the time you were 11, or they went free. The statute of limitations was done. You also had to remember the date and time of the abuse. And you couldn't get a prosecution or a conviction for felony unless you, at your age, could remember the time and place of the abuse. The Kendall law was called. And one of the first cases that I had discussions with my ADAs about was about a case that was in court at the time I became the district attorney. And they were using my laws to prosecute abusers, child abusers. And so it's interesting how life really does come around. All the experiences I've had with the different agencies are really the reason I think that we were able to function so seamlessly during this time. And so, I believe that my entire career led me to this very office. This is where I was meant to be at the time and at the place that we are now in history. And there's not a prosecutor alive or a person who works in my office that is not going to remember the job they held during these times. And so, look, and despite all of that, because of the experiences I've had in all the other offices, I was able to create all of these bureaus, and I was able to restructure the entire office and reform the entire office. So, look, I'm excited by what we've done. I look forward to 2021. It can't happen fast enough for me. But you are right. Every office I've ever held, the litigation experience I had as a private attorney, it led me right here at this time.
Good. Speaking of that, also I'd like to know, with all the demonstrations that happened, particularly over George Floyd, for whatever reason, within Queens County, there was minimal violence like there was and looting. What do you attribute that to in terms of the citizens in Queens?
I attribute it to a lot of things. You know, I was at
A lot of demonstrations though, and it was a lot of passion. So
yeah, and I was at some of them, by the way. I mean, you know, I walked with the Queen's Defenders out in Far Rockaway. I went to you know, a lot of the Occupy corners where there was shootings. I went to the corner in Brooklyn. They gave me a visa in Brooklyn to go to the street where the 1-year-old was shot and killed. And I went out there and spoke against gun violence and talked about the fact that you need to make sure the next generation doesn't pick up the exact same guns that were taken off the street now. But you know, we have a terrific Cure Violence and community groups in our streets that work every single day towards mediating violence. And I think the police department, the Cure Violence groups, the fact that our office was involved in so many of making sure, you know, we weren't prosecuting for protesting. I think that's like doesn't exist. You can't prosecute for protesting, right? It's a First Amendment right. We didn't prosecute for curfew violation. I did not prosecute for social distancing. It was affecting people of color exponentially when you look at who was getting picked up. So I think that there in Queens County, you know, with the 200 languages and 190 countries, as I always talked about as borough president, there was a lot of cooperation to make sure that the violence didn't escalate to that point. You know, I give a lot of credit to the Cure Violence groups. They were out there every day, and they were at the demonstrations every day, making sure that the right messages got out, and that this was about policing. This was about how we talk about national policing. This was fairness and equity, and the unfairness and the inequity of George Floyd, and the fact that the charges were not high enough in the beginning of that case, and that they needed to be the charges that were finally brought. And I think that we had open discussions about them as well. Look, could it happen here? I guess so. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that we all work together so well here in the county.
Thank you. Another question is, can you tell us more about your new advisory councils?
Yes. Oh, thank you. I thank you for the cue. Dirk McCall is watching on this call. Dirk came over to us. He is a Queens guy from Astoria. I think it's Astoria.
Yes, he is. He is.
He's Astoria, right?
Yep.
He's a Queens guy from Astoria. He worked for some reason. He's in Bronx working for Ruben Diaz for a lot of years. I know I'm going to pay for this tomorrow with him. But you know, we have him now in Queens County. I'm so excited by his leadership. We have so many advisory councils that we talked about for many years. As you know, as borough president, I did that as well. But I think it is utmost more important right now that we have the advisory councils that are meeting on a quarterly, every 2 months, as the district attorney. Look, times change every day. I mean, you know, part of the issue with this office had been that leadership never changed, that today's views on the world hadn't changed, that it needed reform, that it needed to be restructured. I've done a lot of that. And I will be coming out, by the way, with the yearly report. But part of that is listening to community members on what's needed. You know, part of the worst things when I was borough president was when people would say, oh, well, you need to do this for that community. And I said, well, who said that? Did they say that? I mean, how do we have that idea? So we have the South Asian Advisory Council. We have, we have the South Asian Advisory Council. We have the Pacific Asian Advisory Council. We have the African American Advisory Council, the Jewish Advisory Council. We have the Clergy Advisory Council. We have the Trades Advisory Council, because so much of what we do is investigations on companies that sometimes take advantage of their workers. And we have the Service Workers Advisory Council. I'm sure that I'm missing some. But, you know, the idea, the reentry, by the way, task force is new and improved and stronger than it was before, because as people get out of prison and end up at the Queensboro Community Correctional Center, we need to make sure that they have resources and assets available to them so they don't end up right back in the system. But, you know, the advisory councils are a very important part of what we do. I need to hear from the community what they need in order to feel safe, in order to make sure that their needs are responded to. And it's a very important part of the structure of my office.
Good. Do you
And by the
actually,
way,
yeah,
By the way,
go
it's important to note that as we formed these advisory councils, the amount of ADAs who are interested in being part of it, because they're part of that community, was remarkable.
Good. It's somewhat similar to the General Assembly, which I'm a member of for a number of years and was under you during your borough presidency. So
Yes.
it's great. A couple other quick questions. Let me see. How specifically has bail reform affected your office? I
So
know that
bail
you said
reform-
it's changed twice, but how has it actually affected things?
It's changed twice. At first, look, I do not believe in, I've never made it a secret that I don't believe in bail, in cash bail. I think that it is, if you are, I prefer the dangerousness, 48 states use dangerousness as part of how they keep people in before their day in court. And you have to remember that this is before your day in court. You're arrested, you're not convicted. You haven't even had a hearing yet on the charges that are being brought against you. And so bail as a concept, cash bail, I just don't think it's a fair concept. And if you should be in jail before your hearing and before you're convicted, it shouldn't matter how much money you have. Having said that, it is one of the few tools I do have at my disposal. I have lowered the average cash bail in my office to an enormous extent, by the way. We remand if we believe that someone is not going to show up at their trial date. We will ask for remand. The bail laws have changed in that, misdemeanors and nonviolent crimes were not qualifying offenses, is what they're called. They were not bailable offenses. They did change the law so that when you have these recidivist people that keep coming through the system, that you can ask for bail. It is my hope and it is my goal that we'll get to a point where it's much more like the Jersey system or much more like the federal system, where people are getting help and during that time when they're waiting for their trial. If you are addicted to drugs, if you have mental health illness, if you need a job, during that time, you should have those resources available to you. And so we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Good. What's the, there was a law stating that the district attorney's office must give all witnesses to the defense before trial. And I wondered how that has affected you and whether you've had any issues with that.
Well, so there's new discovery laws. It's happened twice. Like I said, the first one gave the same amount of time. So this is what it was surrounded by. This is why we had the discovery laws changed. And by the way, it was a great thing. When someone gets arrested and they're working on a plea bargain or the defense counsel needs to know the evidence they have against them. All too often under the old laws, the defense counsel and the defendant would find out what the DA's office had as evidence very close to trial. And by then, you've already done time either before because of bail, or you're remanded, or you had these outstanding charges over your head, and nobody wants to live that way. So now you have a small amount of time a month in general. There's different ways you can extend that. To get the discovery to the defense counsel. And that means when you're plea bargaining or when you're negotiating, they actually know the evidence that's against them. And that's a very important part of transparency and equality and fairness in our system. So I think it's a good thing. As far as the witnesses go, we have the tool of protective orders. So if it's a gang member, if it's a gang witness, if it's sexual abuse, if it's domestic violence, if it's a sexual crime, and you want to, and you feel, and you can make an argument that turning over the witness's name or information would be harmful to the witness, and that they could be under threat, you make a protective order. We have had our arguments in court as to whether that protective order could be that the witness information be given to the defense counsel and then not the defendant. I will tell you, we haven't done that well in court on those arguments. So right now, usually you could give it to the defense counsel, and they are not allowed to give it to the defendant by court order. And so, we try and protect our witnesses as much as we possibly can. We also have a witness protection unit whose job it is to protect the witnesses and to make sure that anything they need so that we can make our cases are met. So we do everything we can to protect the witnesses as we do that. We also have a port in which the defense counsel can communicate with the witnesses, right? So that you don't have to give them their phone numbers. That it's scrambled, I guess, for want of a better word. So they can make the phone call. They don't have the numbers. It goes through a Verizon port, and they can get communication that way.
Good. And really quick questions, or if you have quick few word answers. What about closing Rikers?
I'll try my best. It's hard for me, but I'll try my best.
Closing Rikers, and opening up the new jails? That's not specific to your office, but it's sort of ancillary to it.
It's not specific to my office. As you know, that's put on hold anyway by the city of New York right now because of the capital budget. Look, I was always for and it's not community, it's county jails. We are the only city in the entire county in the entire state of New York that don't have county jails. Just so you know, 7 other counties have county jails, 56, not us. I do think there is value to defendants, especially those that are Rikers who have not been convicted yet, to be able to have closer relationships to families. It's closer to the courthouse. It's right next door, the whole bit. I voted, as you know, as borough president against this particular plan. I thought this particular plan was too big. It was right next door to the courthouse. It was in a community. I didn't think the way that they chose the site was all that great. So I do think that this particular plan, as the borough president, was not correct. I don't know where it stands now on the city sort of land use agenda. And I will tell you this, Rikers Island has decreased the number by thousands over the last year or two. Last I checked I think there was 4,000 people at Rikers. We are a very small percentage of that. I think, we were trying to check the numbers yesterday. I think we're at about, out of the thousands of people there, I think we have about 600 people that are actually at Rikers right now from Queens County. And that's for a whole host of reasons, right? Either they're doing city sentenced, they're remanded because of the crime they committed. They have a parole hold. If you're out on parole and you get rearrested, parole can hold you and make you finish your time. So there's a bunch of different reasons, but those are about the percentages.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying. I'll try.
Yeah, good.
Go ahead. I'll try again.
Well, actually, a couple of questions from G-Man Rivera. Okay. And his comment is New York has a revolving door system with zero accountability against the criminals and is a contributing factor to the skyrocketing increase in crime. If you would like to comment on that.
I mean, look, we have not deferred one prosecution in Queens County, especially for those drivers of crime, but for anything. So if I felt like it should be prosecuted with COVID, before COVID, we're doing it now. I would say, though, that there are minor crimes that we don't prosecute for. I didn't prosecute for curfew violations. I didn't prosecute for social distancing. Small amounts of marijuana that come through the system. We aren't prosecuting for those. I would say, though, that with the new laws, the revolving door issue with the bail reform is not quite the issue it was months ago, because if you are a recidivist, if you keep coming back through the system, we do have tools that are better than they were in January in order to make sure that it is not that revolving door. Look, there is no doubt that from my perspective, I do not like being put in one category or the other. I'll prosecute to the fullest extent of the law those that are shooters on the street, those that carry guns. But I'll at the same time try to make sure that people don't end up in my system. that we have mentorship programs, and that we have drug rehab programs and mental health programs, and that we work with the Cure Violence program to make sure that people never end up in front of us. We just opened up the Justice Center in Far Rockaway to make sure that if you are young and you're doing crimes that we think you could benefit from community involvement, that you can answer for your crimes out there and answer to community leaders and see what kind of internship programs or mentorship programs that you could benefit from. So, you know, I would say to G-Man Rivera that I think it's important that the district attorney has a steady hand and an equal hand and a fair hand. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the borough.
Thank you. Good. And one last question from me. This is actually has to do with Old Astoria and the neighborhood. You know, one of the biggest issues we've had locally is the beacon programs, the fact that they're disappearing, that our young people basically have nothing to do in the after school when there is normal school. And one of the tools I think that would be interested in being used is the Police Athletic League. And the reason I bring this up is that I had actually spoken to somebody at one of their events, and they said that it basically sits in the hands of the district attorney, whether these of each, that's what I was told. It's something that they, well, then maybe it's something we could work on, because while I don't really have a site at this point, I think that something along a police athletic league facility within Queensbridge, Ravenswood, and Astoria houses in this area around here would be really a wonderful tool on so many levels. And this is a little project that I thought, you know, there's also a lot of developers coming down here. There's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Maybe there's something that we could all do together just to improve the quality of life of this neighborhood and the opportunities for our young people. So I wanted to throw that out there.
No, look, I don't control PAL and the Police Athletic League or Foundation. It's just not what we do. But we do other things that is right up that same sort of alley. We work with PAL quite a bit, and we appreciate the relationship. We don't control them.
Well, no, I didn't say that.
Saying, it's not in our hands as to how the resources that they have are disseminated. But a lot of other things are in our hands, right? So. We still have an Explorers program at the DA's office. So those teenagers that need something to do, and parents out there that want their high schoolers to have something to do for the summer that they can actually put on their resume. Number one, it keeps them out of trouble. Number two, it gives them a viewpoint of the law. Number three, it's a great thing for the resume when looking for a job the year after that you were an Explorer for the Queens District Attorney. We have internship programs. We have a high school still in the DA's office. But we are just about to issue an RFP, just so everybody knows, for community engagement and to work with our youth to make sure that they do not end up in the system. And I think that is the most, you know, people say to me, you're the district attorney, it's your job to keep the borough safe. I say I'm the district attorney. It's my job to keep the borough safe. But part of doing that is to make sure that the younger generation knows that there's better paths and better trails that they can follow and that they can make their own paths. No matter, you know, where they're from, what they do now, you can always change your path. You can always change your trail. So we are issuing RFPs from our office using the forfeiture money, like I talked about actually during the campaign, to work with different community groups. And Richard, I will make sure that your organization is on that list.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Good. Well, thank you. This has been a great presentation. It's really great to see you again. If anybody has any further questions, if they want to put them in the chat and with their email address and name, we will reach out to the district attorney's office to see if we can get answers for them. And
my email is there, katz@queensca.org. Someone will respond. If we don't respond, please email us again. And we also have a Friday email that goes out every Friday. If you'd like to get that email, please let us know. You can go right to the website, queensda.org, and sign up for that email as well. Richard, thank you for your leadership. Old Astoria, I miss all of you.
Well, anyway, one last thing too. Our next presenter, this should be right up your alley, because we, you know, I'm a musician, and you know that we are considered, it seems like, the least essential workers. And I would like to push back on that a lot, because I think as an artist and a and culture were extremely important to the city. I don't think it'll ever come back without us. So we're starting a section now where we're bringing in different artists to do small performances during our meetings like this. So Virginia Marcs will be joining us now. And while this should be a special interest to you, Melinda, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but your initial degree was in music, correct?
No. My
Oh.
initial degree was in political science, but I sang my way through college and high school, by the way.
College. Oh, okay.
I did.
So
I
she's
did.
a wonderful artist, and to have that that gene of the artistry is very important. It's a creative gene that I think helps you do your job.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate my parents for giving me that gene.
Yes. Okay, so I'd like to bring out Virginia. Okay, and I'd also like to state really quickly here. We actually have come out with a small piece on our website. I won't go through the whole thing, but basically what we were saying is that, like I just said, the artists, the culture, we seem to be on the bottom in terms of essential workers. We just don't get anything. We haven't been working since last March at all. We've gotten no breaks. And it's been very, very difficult. I've had one job in 9 months. One thing is that we want to make sure, but no sectors are going to be more important to the recovery of New York City back to normalcy than theaters, clubs, and music venues. The nightlife is what induces people to move here to deal with the high cost of living and stress of nightlife. Without it, you'll not see the next generation of young people moving here or the young professionals from throughout the world who have come to see New York as a world capital of culture. So to that end, we've decided to start a performing artists section to these meetings. And with our initial artists, we'd like to bring in Virginia Marcs, a wonderful singer-songwriter that I met last year. And we started to work on some projects together, but COVID got in the way, but we hope that we can, very soon resurrect that. So Virginia, if you'd like to say a few words, who you are, where you come from.
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me, Old Astoria Neighborhood Association. I am Virginia Marcs. That's Marcs. I have lived in Queens, in Astoria, in several places. I'm currently in Jackson Heights, but I'm also a member of the Astoria Music Collective, and Astoria is in my heart always. I'm originally from Florida, but I've been here over 10 years, so I got my New York card. And I'm a musician. I'm a singer first, and then learned to play guitar. Started songwriting, and I write very indie, mildly poppy music for hopefully all of you to enjoy.
Good. Okay. Well, okay. This is our first presentation. We're very interested in everybody's comments, not only on her performance, but how everything sounds from a technical standpoint.
I might not read the comments on my performance. If you're going to, no, I'm kidding. I'll read everything.
Good. Okay. And also know that this will be an ongoing event. So if anybody knows any musicians or dancers or theater or poetry or anything in the performing arts, that would like to do a few minutes with us, please have them reach out to us. Okay, Virginia, take it away.
I shall. I'm just going to unplug this guy. So I won't be able to hear you for a moment, but it just frees me up to display. Okay, this song is called Dark. We've been living in a bit of a dark time. I hope this brings you some light.
You can sit in the dark, my friend. I will hold your hand. I have known darkness too, so I will sit by you. You don't have to be afraid of the dark anymore. our spark will prove sure. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. So we made a mess of you. You made your mess too. We all saw you tumble and fall, ashamed of it all. But there isn't anybody here who has not fought that fight. The long journey back to the light. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. There isn't anybody here who has not fought that fight. There isn't anybody here who has not fought that fight. There isn't anybody here who hasn't fought that fight. You are not alone, we have all fought that fight. So I will hold your hand and your heart through this night. You are not alone, we have all fought that fight. I will hold your hand and your heart through this night.
All right, that was my song Dark.
Bravo.
I'll just put this in my ear in case Richard has anything to say before I play my next song.
Just bravo. How's that?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dark is going to be coming out on my EP that was supposed to be out already. I have some things on Spotify and some links will be shared if you're interested in my music. If you enjoy this performance, please check me out. You know, no pressure, but you know, all of us singers, we need a little adoration every once in a while. No. So Dark will be out next year. This next song is called Summer, and though it is not coming out anytime soon, it is on my, what I call Patreon. That's because that's what it's called. Patreon is a way for people to support independent artists financially on a monthly basis, as low as $1 a month or as much as, you know, as you can afford. And so there is a demo of Summer there. And I just thought Summer was appropriate because it's not just about, you know, the season of summer as it happens in the year. It actually is also about the seasons of our life. And this one in particular is about a person who was kind of a season of life, who is no longer around. And I think a lot of us we've lost people, or we've lost situations that, you know, we had control over before the pandemic hit. And I don't know, I just think this addresses that pretty well. It's called Summer.
Oh, it's summer, your melody still plays in me, and green eyes, a pair of sparkling mysteries. Oh, ah, ah. turn to winter freeze. Spring blooms on without you. We get a sliver of a whisper, not enough to hold on to. But then you come seeking and I play it hiding. There are no words, just a desperate search to find me. Oh, summer, ah, 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 yeah. Oh, summer, ah, 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 yeah. Oh, summer, we could never get our feet on the floor. Too blind to see the love waiting at our door. Oh, ah, ah. I know you were the only one who saw me. Never believing the stories my demons were singing to me. But I never let you hold me to the love that we made. And when the storm came, I let the rain wash me away. Oh, summer, ah, 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 yeah. Oh, summer, ah, 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 yeah. Oh, summer, you did all you could to keep me. I could never tell you what you mean to me. Oh, ah, ah. Well, maybe once, just once, but I said it while you were sleeping. And you smiled and put your arm around me. Yeah, you smiled and put your arm around me. And I felt you breathing in my ear beside me. Oh, but I know I was only dreaming of. Oh, summer, ah, 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 yeah. Oh, summer, ah, 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 yeah. Oh, summer, was I dreaming? Oh, summer, was I dreaming? Was I dreaming?
Thank you. Thank you. Great job. Bravo. Yep. Good. Wonderful job. What a great beginning for this whole session and stuff like that. And, I hope that pretty soon we can be out on the streets and actually enjoying this. Actually, from what I understand too, and I don't have a lot of information on it, but starting March 1st, there is a program that was passed by the city council where artists such as ourselves will be able to perform in open streets, and we will be able to charge for it, which would be just a wonderful thing. So I want to find out more information about it. I know that this is something that was being worked on by Councilman Van Bramer's office. So this is the beginning of the way back. We all look forward to it. So, and I couldn't have asked for a more beautiful performance for our initial performance. Thank you so much for gracing our screens. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully those comments will show up if you're interested. Check out my links. And Richard, I owe you some vocals for Wings of a Songbird.
You do. And one day, actually, we should, maybe I'll play some of my music too.
Yes, I think you should.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Okay. Good night. Okay. Listen. You know what I should have done? If you can bring Victor, if you can bring Virginia on really quick. There were some comments here that I wanted to mention to her. Or is she already off? Already off. Okay. So listen, I want to bring in now from going from the music to the music of the environment. We have an artist also, from the Department of Environmental Protection, Robert Olivari. Robert?
Good
Hi.
evening. Thanks for having me.
Good. Thank you. So I wanted to also bring on DEP. They're a very, very strong presence in our neighborhood and everybody's quality of life. And we bring in different agencies and different people for communications back and forth as much as possible. You can hear what concerns us. You can let us know what you're doing. And I'd like you to take it away.
All right. So very briefly, what DEP handles is the water for the city. That means the drinking water, supplying it, making sure it's safe to drink for everybody in the city. Also the management of storm and sanitary water. So the catch basins on the corner that you see, those are for drainage for the storm water. When all the snow eventually melts, it'll be going down there and into the waste treatment plants. We also do air and noise quality of life investigations as well. One of the main questions we've been getting due to COVID, and especially with the second wave that we're experiencing now, is how the agency is handling this. So as you can see, some of us are telecommuting instead of going to the office in Boulevard. Two things that really affected our agency the first go around was our noise inspectors usually require going into a residence to perform readings of the volume of the sound that's being experienced by the resident. That was put on hold during the first wave, and I spoke with our air and noise division this week about the same thing again. And starting Monday, December 21st, they're going to be doing a reduced amount of readings on the indoor, but please continue to make the complaints about any noise complaints from restaurants, bars, whoever, and we'll still work with NYPD to try to address those issues. Another thing that happened the first go around was through the governor's office. We had a moratorium on issuing hydrant permits to the department buildings from the governor's office. Since it's winter months, we don't issue them anyway now, but if things don't improve by then, that may be another issue. But ideally, by the summer, things will calm down a little bit more with COVID. So any issues or questions from the neighborhood, I'd be glad to field them.
Okay, yes. We have, let's see, Antonella Di Savario. I think you know Antonella. And she's actually the chair of the, I'm trying to remember the name of the committee that deals with resiliency and things like that with Community Board 1. Antonella's question is, has DEP looked at or studied 5G radiation on the existing cell structures and how strong the emissions are?
Okay, so that doesn't fall under our purview due to city rules and laws. I believe that would be a state level issue, in fact, to oversee that. They also oversee content infrastructure as well instead of DEP. So for radiation, we don't have the equipment or the ability to check that. That would be either a state or a federal investigation. But as I mentioned previously, if these towers go up and they're causing noises in the neighborhood that you feel are against city law, we can investigate that. But as for radiation, that doesn't fall under our department, unfortunately. That would be a state or higher level federal investigation.
Okay, question 2. Strong jarring lights have been emitted by schools and light poles. The light pollution is becoming a big issue. The illumination on recent light bulb replacements are very harsh. It's like car headlights shining into your house apartment all night long. Has this been brought up to you also?
Okay, so we do light pollution investigations as well. Usually it's coming from someone who has installed a floodlight in their backyard or one of those motion sensor lights that is extremely bright and focused on someone's window. First, the street lights, those are Department of Transportation's domain. I'm not sure whatever sort of body they went to get those LED lights approved, but it'd be up to DOT to readdress that and maybe switch them out for a softer light than the LED, but that falls underneath their purview since it's part of their infrastructure and we can't issue a violation for it because ideally it has been approved by the city and is the legal usage of that light. As for schools, we can investigate that, but DOE, Department of Education, would have to address it because it's part of their regulations as well, what they can and can't use on their property. But if it is causing an inconvenience, we can address that to them, saying, we received complaints. The community or your nearby apartment building neighbors say that these lights over the school grounds or wherever they're placed is causing an inconvenience to them. We need to address this.
Okay, first of all, I want to apologize. I had a mind fart, as they say it, and it is the Environmental Committee. So I don't know why I couldn't remember the name, but Antonella Di Savario is chair of the Environmental Committee, and she's doing a great job. So we had a quick comment about what we talked about before from George Sinopidis on the 5G antenna safety. He wants to confirm that it's not DEP, but it's a federal issue, huh?
It's either state or federal. I'm not positive off the top of my head. If it's state, it would probably be the Department of Environmental Conservation. If it would be federal, probably the EPA then. But I would go state first and then address it with the federal government.
Is that something you could help us with? Maybe reach out and let us know what you could find out. We'd greatly appreciate it.
I can reach out to my contacts at DEC and see if they can point me in the right direction if it's not them. But yeah, I can look into it at least. Okay,
appreciate that. Questions that I had also twofold. Often right now, there's a lot of development going down in Hallett's Peninsula and all of the Western Queens waterfront. And some of the developers have actually instituted brown and black water systems. They've come before our community board and used that as, basically a positive move on their part to try and get approval on zoning changes. I'd like to know whether these types of public-private partnerships on dealing with water issues is something that the DEP might look into in the future, and it's something that may be able to see that grows into a partnership that really would help our entire waterfront.
Okay, well, first of all, we already do look into that to a certain degree. Are you talking about newly developed buildings or refurbished buildings that already exist?
I would say either or, I think that,
so when a building is being built, it has to take into account the amount of permeable soil it is taking away. So it's basically natural drainage by, going to the ground. So they have to either have what are known as green roofs that retain the water, or they have what you were describing before, tanks underground that are supposed to intake through drainage of the rainstorms on their the gutters and such, displace that amount of water that they have taken away from natural drainage. So we do investigate that. We also investigate them for they have to submit to us, actually, should I say, documentation on how much they believe their building is going to contribute to the sanitary sewer system, i.e., bathrooms, kitchens, laundry machines, things like that add to our sewer system. And we have to ensure that it meets with our standards and that it doesn't exceed the capacity of the sewer system available in our overall system with our waste treatment plants.
Can they mitigate that by creating, again, there's some of these systems that actually treat water? From what I understand, they do treat water. These black and brown water systems, not to treating it to the level where it can be drunk, but where it can be used, I guess, for irrigation and certain services inside the buildings.
I haven't heard of them treating it before, but I have heard that they're supposed to retain it and disperse it, slowly into the system. But as for treating it on site, I haven't heard that personally. As far as I know, the only people who treat water are us, or unless you have a pool, then it's the pool guy. That's drinkable as well. So I have to look into see about the rules for treating it on site by a private person.
We have a very antiquated sewage system. Most of it for years, just dumped sewage, direct raw sewage right into the river, because we're one of the oldest sections here in Queens. And it's things like this that have actually, within the parks departments, it's held up having a restroom for years now in Astoria Park because they had to redo the sewage system. It was dumping directly into the East River. So again, I'm looking for any kind of solutions that we can put together. And if it's a public-private partnership would do that, that would be great. Maybe if you could research the black and brown water systems that they're talking about, because from what I understand, unless I'm mistaken, they do some treatment of water, not to the level where it can be drunk, but where it can be used. Okay. So, that would be a great thing I could see. And in general, can you give us an overview of what's going on in Old Astoria in terms of this antiquated infrastructure for handling sewage and handling water overflows and things like that.
Okay, well, generally what we're trying to do is upsize our sewers in a lot of parts of the city because over the past couple of years, we've noticed that there's a higher ratio of water falling with each rainstorm, and the sewers are only designed to take in a certain capacity. I believe it's 1.12 inches per or 1.34 inches per hour, and we're seeing rainfalls of 2 inches or more per hour. And that's when you see instances of say a catch basin, you see there's a bunch of on the corners, like you see a big puddle around it, and you're like, there must be something wrong with it. There must be something wrong with the sewer or things like that. And then yes, occasionally that could be the case. There could be a break, or could be a clog, or there could be garbage that flowed into the catch basin, blocking the chute that connects it to the sewer main. But a big issue is that it's a matter of capacity, so we can't drain it as fast as we need to drain it to keep the community safe. So a big thing we're doing is upsizing sewers. I know there was a project this last 2 years in the community, but I'm not sure of anything current. But I can talk to DDC about getting a map of any of our capital projects for sewer projects that are ongoing or assumed to be upcoming in the neighborhood.
Yeah, we would appreciate that. And I'd like to, and I can email it out to everybody because I think people want to know what's going on. It's very important, particularly that we have a large amount of development in the pipeline coming down here. And what probably to me, the most important thing to deal with is making sure that the infrastructure is up to the increased density. It has to be, and I think that this is something that should be dealt with, holistically with the developers and done proactively. So I hope that you take that message back, I guess.
Absolutely.
We want to see that. Even like Astoria houses, from what I understand, they were draining right into Hallett's Cove, and for years the pollution in Hallett's Cove was above levels it should be, but they never realized that that they were actually dumping raw sewage right from Astoria houses right in there. Now it's been closed off, but is there also been a study done of all the different sources of piping and everything, raw sewage? This is a 200-year-old area of piping, so I wonder if that study's been done, and if the study's been done, what they can do to alleviate those areas where that kind of sewage is still going into the water.
So what you're talking about is just pipes that lead from a structure.
Old pipes that are just not going into the sewage system. They're not being treated. They're just going right in the river. I mean, this is and not only that, we have a lot of, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, not sinkholes, but we have a lot of also catch basins, which are just, they're not connected to anything. We have a lot of those on Shore Boulevard, which is floods every year all the time. We have a big problem with flooding there, and I really think that should also be addressed.
Yeah, that one had the Shore Road one had been brought up before by the community board, community board one, and it was a while ago, but there was something going on with either the state or the Parks Department where there was some sort of interference of property where the work couldn't have been done at the time to try to improve that sewer system. But I mean, generally, we don't really find a situation like you're describing. It's very rare. The only other occasion I can think of where there was a building that was draining into a water body without going into the New York City system itself were several apartment buildings along the Coney Island Creek that were emptying directly into it. And it took an extensive effort to find where that little pipe that was sticking out of the bank came from. But generally speaking, all the sewers in 4 of the 5 boroughs are combined sewers, and buildings are connected to it. And combined sewers operate in that during dry weather conditions, it takes in solely sanitary, which goes right to the waste treatment plants to be treated properly. The only time we have any instances of it going into any water bodies is during massive rainstorms where the combined sewer is double its capacity. Then it goes to an outfall. But also, along with that, clean up the water bodies, we have a consent order from the state to build the rain gardens. You may have heard of them before or seen them in your neighborhood. Sometimes they're not popular, I understand. But part of the reason why the state orders to build that was to take in some of the runoff from the street, and the plants that are actually in that are able to treat that water and disperse it into the soil safely, which actually keeps it from getting out into the water bodies during major rain events. And we've actually seen a massive reduction in the pollution level of the water, where we're seeing wildlife come back, such as dolphins. And I think there was a whale last summer or the summer before that showed up in the harbor as well.
Yeah, I know, and they're trying to put oysters back in too. I understand that.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, I think that there might be examples out there. It'd be great to do a study. Nobody knew about this NYCHA pipe going into Hallett's. Nobody really knew that the restroom in Astoria Park was dumping directly into the East River. I mean, until those facilities actually went in for renovation. This is when all this stuff came to light. So it'd be nice to be proactive about it. So, I think that's my 2 cents. Let me see if there's any other comments here. From George. Okay, November 24th, 12th Street had brown, dirty water for 3 hours. Any reason why? I'm assuming that George means the water out of the tap. We get that a lot too here. We get on it, and I'm on 18th Street, and that comes quite a bit of brown water.
Okay, so discolored water could be caused by a couple different things. I mean, to give that specific date and that specific location, I have to do some research on what might have occurred that day. But a brown dirty water issue could have been is normally caused by a shutdown in another area. When a water main is shut down, the sediment in the pipe settles and builds. And then when we turn the water back on, that buildup, even if it's been a couple hours, gets pushed out in one big push, and you can see it in the nearby sinks or showers or dishwashers, whatever you may be using at the time. But what we normally do is we flush the hydrants before we turn the water back on. Well, we open the hydrants before we turn the water back on to try to mitigate that instance of happening. Also, when we do work on our regulators, which regulate the flow of water in our water mains to the homes, sometimes there could be instances of discolored water due to that. But please always notify us so that way we can come address the issue. If we find it's a deeper issue, fix that issue. But generally speaking, I mean, it could happen blocks and blocks away where there's a water shutdown, and it can manage to get to you guys because the power of this water moving through these water mains is so intense that it could be affected. When I put out notifications for water main shutdowns, it's not just for a street, it's for a whole neighborhood, because depending on where that water main is or that trunk main is that's being shut down, it can cause discolored water in a wide area.
Okay. Good. Okay. And is there any instances, this is sediment, have there been any instances where this can be harmful?
No. We're doing normal checks of at the reservoir, along the way to the city itself, and we also have sites where we check the water quality throughout the whole city. Good.
I'd like to ask, does anybody else have any questions? They can put them into the chat and under comments if they have any. If not, if we go off the air, put down your name and your email address if you do have another question, and we will go back to Robert and get the answer for you and get it back to you. Anything else you'd like to bring up that's going on? Any new projects? Anything that we should know about?
Right now, we're really just holding our breaths for the city budget. Most of DEP's funding comes from the water rates and sewer charges. You know, the bill you receive for our services.
No, I know it very well.
Our thing that comes out of the city budget mainly is capital projects, and like we were talking about earlier, the sewer system. Those are capital projects that come through the city budget and done by the Department of Design and Construction on our behalf. When we look at an area, we say we need to do water main work or upsize the sewers at this location. That funding comes from the city budget. So right now we're really holding our breaths to see where that lands in the end of all this that's going on. And then when we get to budget consultations again, I believe in either September or October of 2021, where we talk to the community boards about this, any locations you feel that really need to be addressed, put forward to them so we can discuss it and see what we can do within the budget.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, there was $150 million set aside to do upgrades on infrastructure in Long Island City, I think, or was it 500 million? I don't remember the number, but it was a large number. And quite frankly, we'd like to see a similar number here. The way the developments are projected, it's going to be very similar to what exists in Hunters Point now. It would be best to get ahead of the curve, not behind it. So we hope that you look at that as a possibility. So.
Certainly, the community board. I actually had a meeting with the community board environmental committee about a year ago, exactly about this issue, and also about how it affects the local waste treatment plant that has taken this influx from all these new buildings.
Yep, and you have Antonella on the. She's on the chat right now, the chair of that committee. So good. Any comments, Antonella, or are we just are we good? Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us, and we look hopefully soon to seeing you back again after COVID with lots of infrastructure improvement projects in the pipeline, and so that we can have really controlled and growth here that no one side outdoes the other side, and we can keep everything under control. Thank you.
Sounds good to me.
I'd like to thank everybody that joined us this evening. We had a Jessica Schabowski on the Small Business and Financial Assistance from the Mayor's Office, Lieutenant George Sinopidis from the Port Authority, Melinda Katz from the District Attorney's Office, Virginia Marcs with a wonderful performance, and Robert Olivari from DEP. Please sign up for our newsletter. Go to our website, www.oana-ny.org. We'll see you guys again in January. And also, I'd like to leave this with, if you know an artist, musician, dancer, somebody that would like to, for 10 minutes, do a small performance, we're looking for people like that. Have them reach out to us. Again, our information is in the website, so that we can continue this schedule. It was a great beginning. Let's keep it going. Thank you so much.